Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good day, wherever you're joining in from. This is a new normal for us this year for every of our webinar that we've been doing. It's a bit awkward, but we hope it goes well. So my name is Antonny Liem, like it says, from GDP Venture. We are kind of like venture builder investors active in Indonesia and also globally. We have with us a chat of 3 panelists today. All 4 of us kind of like a OG. I will joke that we've been investing in Indonesia for quite some time now. Adrian and Nicko and myself know each other, I think like 7-8 years back in the beginning. All the pain is still here. So we're going to talk about, obviously, the topic itself is startup funding landscape, rise or fall in Indonesia. 2020 November, we're still talking about that. But before we go on, let's quickly, for the audience who might not be familiar with us, let's quickly introduce your firm to the audience. Maybe we could start with Nicko.
Oh, hi, my name is Nicko. I am now the CEO of BRI Ventures. We are a 250 million USD fund. That's Fund 1, Evergreen. Formerly, I was the CEO of MDI Ventures. It was a corporate ventures backed by Telkom Indonesia. Apa lagi ya? Yeah, like Antonny said, right? We've been here for almost 10 years, bro. I don't know, and it's been an exciting journey so far, right?
Yes.
To see how the ecosystem grow and everything else. But that's all.
Yep. All right. Maybe next, Chandra, please.
Thank you, Antonny. Hi, everyone. My name is Chandra Firmanto. I'm the founder and managing partners of Indogen Capital. We are relatively new compared to my peers here. So we started in 2016, did the first investment in 2016. So far, we have made 19 investments so far with 3 exits today. What we do is we are focusing mostly in the Southeast Asia investments. And we invest mostly in the pre-series, Series A, and our specialty is actually in helping well-performing startups and other VCs, let's say, to expand in Indonesia market, because we have pretty good networks reaching to the secondary and third-tier cities across Indonesia. So if you need any help, let's say, to expand your portfolio to the Indonesia market, feel free to reach out to me after the call. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian?
Hi, thanks. Adrian, managing partner, AC Ventures. So you may have heard AC Ventures was formed through the merger of Agaiti and Convergence last year. We actively manage over 120 million in AUM presently across 3 funds. We've been investing for the past 6+ years and presently have over 100 active investments, primarily in Indonesia. Some of those companies are speaking over the next couple of days, including Cargo Shipper and PayPal, for example. My partners, Pandu, is well known in the ecosystem. He is on the board of Gojek. He serves as chairman of Shopee, as well as Michael, who founded Agaiti. Excited to share our insights into the market and where we see things going over the next 12 months. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. So, back to the topic, right? Obviously, this year, everybody got hit in a way without having to say the cost. So 2020 has been, interesting to say the last, right? It's November. We've been kind of like, I remember when everything started in March, kind of in Indonesia, right? And then everybody was look at each other and see, okay, maybe this is like a month. And then even people say it's going to be over by summer, by June, by what? And it's November. So, I want to ask, your take on it. How bad is our startup environment right now? Is it really bad, or is it like actually recovered, or actually no, we're actually totally fine? What is your take on it? Adrian, start with you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to kick off. So, in March, when we really saw things coming, we thought it was going to be really bad for the entire ecosystem. Talking about when markets went south really quickly. We had sent emails and guidance to our portfolio companies that they really needed to hunker down, preserve cash, guidance as to how they can work remotely, or at least have safety protocols for working throughout COVID. What I can say, though, is after the 3 months from March, actually the market seems to have recovered pretty quickly. And now 7 months in, actually we've seen a complete reversal, I think, in terms of outlook for where these companies are headed, for most of them. I think that we think as a house now, looking at the data and where companies are going, for many segments, technical or technology disruption, the way consumers are buying, the way they're doing finance, the way that they are entertaining themselves. This is technology that's being disrupted, being brought forward, maybe by 3 to 5 years. And so the growth rates that we've seen in some underlying companies, especially the ones in e-commerce essentials, logistics, edtech, fintech, right? This has really grown. And so actually, what we're seeing is actually a massive tailwind for a lot of e-commerce, for a lot of technology business.
So for you, actually, we okay, or even we rebounded really well, better than pre-COVID, right? Okay.
No, it does. In some ways, pay me to say this, but technology companies, you look at the public markets, how the market cap of public tech companies have grown. It's almost similarly happened in private markets, both from traction and funding.
Chandra, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I agree completely with Adrian. I think Adrian addressed it really well. So when the COVID hit, right? So what we did is we divided our portfolio into three different groups, right? The first group is the one impacted negatively. The second group is the one not being impacted, right? So pretty much the same. And then the third group is actually the one that positively impacted, because the point that people missing is actually for the technology companies, there are actually many startups actually benefited from this, right? What we did for the one with a positive impacts, then we actually push them to use the chances actually to be better in terms of getting the tractions, right? Be more aggressive actually. But of course, we want everyone to have at least 18 months cash flow. That is the number one things that we emphasize on. And then for the one that not being impacted, then of course we try to make sure that the expenses can be as efficient as possible. And the one being impacted, then the first thing that they had to do is actually to preserve cash to survive and to have at least 18 months cash flow.
So back to the questions. Do you think so you're okay? For you, it's okay, because for Adrian, this is good actually. We have a good tailwind. For you, it's a mix, so probably it's okay.
Yes, I think that of course there are some startups actually impacted, right, in our portfolio.
Yeah, we'll get there later in
so they are okay.
Okay.
And the one that actually positively impacted actually gaining the benefits.
We'll go there later. For Nicko, I mean, you're from CVC, from one of the largest bank in Indonesia, and and BRI Venture is quite relatively very new, right? It's like really fresh in that sense. You've been in the market for a long time, but BRI Venture is new, and you don't have that much portfolio yet. But really specific in as a CVC, strategic and financials. And this year, like what Adrian said, fintech could go north or go south, right? NPL goes up, but then a lot of people obviously want to have access to fintech. How do you take on it? Are we?
Yeah. Well, to me, productive lending is going up definitely, right? I can say much of my previous portfolio, which is dealing with consumer lending. Consumer lending is hit pretty hard, and especially in this time of crisis. But we are catching up with the rest of the world, right? I mean, and especially BRI Ventures. BRI started pretty late in jumping into the venture games, and we have to catch up with Mandiri and obviously Telkom MDI. This provide a very since the market's slowing down and everything, it's kind of providing us of a little bit of accelerate.
Got it. It's like a pit stop where you don't stop and you just well, the others stop because they're older. You kind of like just gas ball.
Yeah. We are investing in 8 companies this year, 2020 alone. 2020 alone, yeah. And I don't know whether this is relevant to your topic of the first topic. We started our new Dana Ventura, Indonesia first venture fund, which is called Sembrani. So and it's kind of creating a more innovation
way.
in our part, how to deploy money.
Great. Yeah, so this year, even though all the challenges, actually people see ways to innovate. Even as investors, as a CVC, like Sembrani, you said, I know about Sembrani, which is, you know, very innovative in a way. You kind of like handle the ecosystems and the supply chain of money. So yeah, I mean, that's a good example.
Yeah, but when we talk about the macro, right? I mean, last year we only see around 2.6, 2.7 billion coming into Indonesia, which is I think we reached the peak 2018 when we reached around north of 3.5 billion US coming into the startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
But this year Q3, I mean, if you can see, I mean, the quantum is reduced significantly. And the number of deals, especially, Q3 we only see less than 1.5 billion so far, and most of the 1.5 billion goes to the unicorns mostly in this.
So having said that, because the market is volatile, the macro is kind of like constrained, right? Our economic growth is these 2 quarters has been minus, even though this quarter the president just announced yesterday it's actually -3 compared to -5.3. So it's actually hopefully getting better. But because of all this uncertainty, people are still placing bets, but they're placing bets on the less riskier bets, right? Kind of because you said all the unicorns and stuff like that. I want to go back to Chandra though, like because you do say we have some sort of groups who are okay and some on your portfolio. How many percent do you reckon that because there's a study by I think by Katadata who says that 7% plus startups in Indonesia have suffered badly, at least according to the survey for this pandemic era. What about yours, Chandra, and Adrian and Nicko? Like if you have to put a number, what is the kind of like the ratios?
I would say about 20%.
20%.
20% impacted, but the reason is because the Katadata, maybe the numbers is higher, is because they accumulate all the startups, right?
Yeah.
PCs usually we tend to go into the hot sectors, hot industry, right?
Yes.
So that's why our numbers should be better than the higher numbers, right?
What about you, Adrian?
So I think from our newest fund, which has really been deploying quite actively this year, by capital deployed, it's probably about 5%, but that's probably equivalent to about 4 companies that are in the current, the newest fund that we're actively deploying. But one thing I would say about your last point is that I think in spite of the slowing or the slower economic growth or even economic contraction, what you're seeing here is actually a switch in consumption habits or how people interact with applications or how they transfer money, for example. So, I think even though that there might be a shrinkage in the total size of the economy or slower growth, you're seeing a much faster growth in the tech side in terms of the adoption rates as compared to, or even at the expense of traditional formats.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously we in digital startups, I think in general, we get to see that some as if you're in hospitality or travel, obviously that is almost you're very challenged, but the rest of the new enablers are there. Financials, like you said, productive finance, you said, Nicko, you closed 8 new deals this year, so I would assume BRI Ventures started last year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, we began investing this year, 2019. I was on board on September, I remember.
So out of your 250 million fund, evergreen fund, you invested 8, which is how many percent of that, more roughly, deployed this year?
Almost half.
Almost half. Okay, well, still very aggressive, right? Yeah.
No. Okay. I mean, we are always the kind of investors that never take a the early risk, right? Because well, first of all, we are state-owned fund. I mean, millions of things can go wrong here, right? I mean, so what we, I believe when we, put on thesis on BRI Ventures, we, somewhat similar to what we did in MDI Ventures under Telkom, which is we aim for a sweet spot in the strategic round, because and we kind of play into a more quantum kind of a play rather than a big multiplication of exits. So what we do is a moderate risk, moderate return, and all things considered, we are managing the risk of of a state fund, basically. So
Yeah.
so when we enter a, when we participate in a round, let's say series C for Neom in Singapore, we have an indicators where we deem is quote unquote safe investment for us. And if one day that company exited or something, we might not have like 10x multiple, but we put bigger quantum in it. So it's been always the philosophy for a state fund. Although we remember back in MDI we have Indigo, and Indigo gave birth to companies like PayFast, which is I share. We share a lot of company with AC Convergence back in the day. I mean, PayFast has been remarkable company to begin with, right, Adrian? I mean, you can. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. No, I mean, because we have that Indigo to take the first, the more riskier part. And I think that's how we
the early validations kind of
the early validation. We really want to be in it, but we don't want to take the risk. So I guess we kind of created some sort like the Indigo for BRI called Sembrani, because Sembrani invested in the early stage of startups. So I guess I mean, you touched on some point that I would like to ask a bit more, and then ask Adrian and Chandra about it as well, which is, you being again state-owned, state-managed bank fund, right, a CVC. This is a tough era, but you still deploy eight. You still close 8 deals, and then you already explain your kind of like your risk management factors with Sembrani and whatnot. What are your kind of like your LPs take on? Okay, what are their mandate this year? Or next year, 2 years, 2020, 2031. Is there any specific mandate like, okay, guys, let's freeze, or okay, guys? I mean, obviously not for you, Nicko, because you deployed 50% out of 250. No. Yeah, I mean, we projected many. Let's say we revise the stress the stress case scenarios oftenly, especially during the COVID. We
weekly cash call.
We adjust. To tell you the truth, we have 1 or 2 big deals that were coming just prior to COVID, but that sector is not it's not up for the take right now. So we have to hold it, and we are reviewing it right now for early next year participation in it. So we have to be agile, just like any other VCs, and especially how to handle this crisis.
Yeah, Adrian, I mean, AC is kind of like combination of 2 existing VC, right? So your LP mix will be a bit complex to say. So what are their mandate?
So AC Ventures' third fund, which we're calling the latest fund, that does share some LPs with our prior funds, but we also have new LPs on board. Honestly speaking, closing a fund this year was initially quite tough, right? Especially given what happened in the first and second quarters. But we continue to deploy. This year we've actually done 10 deals this year on top of some of the follow-on investments that we've done through this fund, and we're actually seeing significant interest in the fund now, right? Because one, underlying traction has been great, and 2, people are truly seeing what the impact of COVID has in the adoption rates of all these underlying companies, right? If you were to ask me, whether the timing was right, for example, to be investing in edtech, at the beginning of this year, pre-COVID, I would probably have thought it's still early, right? But with post-COVID, when kids can't go to school and online education is the only option, and you're essentially forced to do that for 12, 18 months, suddenly you're really being able to change the perception of parents and forcing these companies to grow faster and to introduce new technologies to get to grips with the volume that's coming through, right? So we have an investment in a company called Cola, which has done tremendously well in this post-COVID environment. And I think this type of a situation is likely unfortunately to persist for at least another 12 months, right? Vaccines don't come so easily.
Okay.
And during that time, technology digital companies are going to have an upper hand in growth.
So you will say that the investors are actually, quite bullish about the situation as well, right? I mean, even the closing of funds now, Q2 at least, right?
I mean, our first close was done at 70% of our target, which is relatively high for a first close for a fund.
Okay.
We're targeting the upper end of our 80 million target. So far, we're quite confident in that outlook.
Chandra, what about you? What would you see your investors changing their feel?
Of course, initially they were a bit worried, right? So, but I emphasize to them that our mandate has always been about finding the well-performing startups and the one that come from a hot industry, and especially with a very clear exit path, right? So it's actually easier to find those startups right now, because
really,
because the one that not performing well has been dying down, right? So
okay.
So it's actually the process of eliminations at this moment. So you can really see the well-performing startups actually thriving during these difficult situations. They're actually improving in terms of tractions. They can actually do lots of efficiency in expenses and then still gaining traction. So those kind of startups are actually the startups that we want to target. So we pay attention to that, and then we just like Nicko, we actually adjust the stress level a bit to make sure that we can predict the post-COVID during the post-COVID which startups actually will thrive.
Talking about stress level, and since all three of you are actively closing deals, deploying fund this year, there's a market discount, right? I mean, the stock market has discounts. Obviously, there's some discounts. It's becoming more like a buyer's market.
Unfortunately, we are on a tight schedule and we have to wrap the session up. So let's give a last few sentences for everyone.
Oh, okay. So yeah, already that's really fast. But hey, okay. So a few last sentences to wrap up, right? I mean, back to this. We already established that we have a good tailwind. Indonesia is rebounding really fast. What excites you with Indonesia's market this 2 years coming, or in a startup industry? Start with Nicko. What excites you?
Well, yeah.
Quick and short.
For me, okay. For me, it's easy lah. I made a jump from MDI Ventures just to understand Indonesia market better, and especially when we started MDI Ventures, 70% of our investment are abroad. So basically, we invested in a lot of spectrum of technology from space to cybersecurity and whatnot. But in this case, we neglected Indonesia, which is Gojek happened, Traveloka happened, Tokopedia happened, and they're not only unicorns. I mean, these guys are ecosystem builders in a sense. So when I feel we kind of missed that opportunity to take a look at what's coming from Indonesia. So when BRI came along, we proposed to them that we are really interested in looking at new retails, looking at micro, small, medium enterprises that about to be digitized and becoming, as you know, most of e-commerce company right now becoming embedded finance companies anyway.
Yeah.
So Bukalapak have Mitra Bukalapak, and Tokopedia.
So much more Indonesia is going to the grassroots directly. Enabling a lot of.
Yes, financial inclusions through commerce, through O2O retail, and through everything else. Not necessarily fintech alone, but everything is connected to financial inclusion one way or another. So that's what excites me. Launching Sebrani is the same thing too, because we are aiming into more retail, logistics, and a lot of stuff that kind of builds, sustaining this new ecosystems that these unicorns are building.
Yeah.
So
I guess like what Adrian said, right? This year has accelerated a lot of this digital inclusion. People move to this platform really fast, so you're ready to take. Adrian, what excites you?
No, I think Nicko summarized it well. It's really what we're calling kind of frontier markets within Indonesia. Previously, were hard to disrupt. That includes the long tail of micro, small, medium enterprises, which he mentioned. This whole idea of inclusive finance, right? These are massive markets. 70% of kind of Indonesian population that's
Unbanked.
unbanked.
Yep.
Actually, maybe a little bit less of the kind of sexy side of kind of B2B marketplaces and supply chain technologies. These are areas which are normally hard to crack, but I think with this kind of COVID tailwind, we're going to see some really interesting opportunities in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, great. Chandra.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with both of them. And then I would like to add as well that in the next maybe 2-3 years, there will be exciting exits in Southeast Asia, especially from Indonesia. And then I believe it's going to bring investors to look to this region.
Okay.
So this is actually the time to invest in Indonesia now, because I really believe that in the next 1 to 2 years, and there will be many exits from Nicko's portfolios, Adrian's portfolios, right? Maybe through IPO in Indonesia, maybe through IPO in China, and etc. There'll be so many exciting exit stories, and then the investors will be like feeling like they're missing the boat. So
yes, thank you.
I will suggest for investors actually to start looking for Indonesia now.
Yeah, okay. So back to the main topic of 2020 impact on Indonesians. We actually have a tailwind. It was a bit paused, but then the rebound was faster. People accelerated to the new platform, and then we have a lot of things to solve, like what Nicko, Adrian, Chandra pointed out. So the scene is actually thriving, and every COVID thing actually filter out all the bad roots, and you can see all the good roots showing up in the pond now. So now is the time to get into Indonesia. So unfortunately, our time is very short. Thanks, Nicko. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Chandra, for this, and I hope to chat again in our off session.
Hey, thank you,
bye, guys.
Thank you, Nicko.
Ayolah, ketemuan lah.
Oke lah.
Ya, bro.
Have a good day, bye.